Good evening. I'm Tony Gumina, President and CEO of the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce. I would like to welcome our candidates and our viewers to the Candidates Forum. As Washington County's largest business association, it is our mission to foster a thriving business community in the West Bend area that will ultimately be of benefit to our city and its residents. We welcome and encourage local business owners to join our organization so that we can continue to offer programs like tonight's forum. You can find membership information and a listing of chamber member businesses on our website, which is wbachamber.org. For the past 26 years, the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce has taken a community leadership role by conducting this unbiased forum. It is intended to provide voters with an opportunity to meet the candidates and listen to their views, and to give the candidates the opportunity to answer questions of general interest to the voters. Our objective tonight is to send informed voters to the polls on Election Day, Tuesday, April 5th. The format of tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will be offered an opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. They will then be asked questions on topics of general voter interest. The candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. The participants will respond in alternating order for each question. Our forum will conclude with the candidates giving a 2-minute closing statement. The Chamber's goal is to provide a professional, courteous, and unbiased environment for the candidates to share their views with the voters of West Bend. We hope that all will respect the time constraints and yield the floor when directed to do so. I would now like to welcome our 4 candidates running for the 2 seats on the school board: John Donaldson, Erin Dove, Melanie Ergot, and Paul Fisher. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. We'll begin with our opening remarks. I will go to John Donaldson.
Thank you. Hello, my name is John Donaldson. I'm a graduate of West Bend East and an Afghanistan war veteran. I have 3 kids in the district. I want to see our district get back to a safe and respected district that it once was when I was in school. I wish to help the district figure out how to retain valuable leaders and use leadership's skills that I have learned in the service to build up great new leaders. I want to be an advocate for the parents and return the liberties of the families to be able to have the say in their child's education. I look forward to bringing new ideas and new perspectives to the challenges our district is facing, and look forward to serving you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin?
Hi, thank you, and thank you for Chamber for having us. My name's Erin Dove, and I grew up in West Bend, where my parents own and ran a small business. I am an alum of West Bend Public Schools. I'm a proud Gator, Viking, and Spartan. Guess I'm a true Bender. My husband and I have lived in Jackson for the past 20 years, where we've raised our 3 daughters there. Our oldest is a freshman in college, and we have 2 juniors at West Bend West. I was very active in their education, starting at Jackson Elementary. I'm invested in our public school and our community. The education that my daughters have received in this system has and is preparing them well for the world beyond high school. It's been a challenging few years, but I believe Paul and I can continue to help move the district forward. For me, it took about a year to get acclimated to how the board runs. I feel now that I, and probably we, have a good understanding of the issues, policies, procedures, finances, and much more. We would be able to keep the district moving, progressing in student achievement, continuing fiscal responsibility, retaining quality teachers, and right-sizing the district, just to name a few. Our board was able to attract, recruit, and hire a solid, quality superintendent. With her guidance, we were able to manage our district through a pandemic with minimal school closures. She's brought stability, and I believe a vote for Paul and I would continue on that path and further advancing our district forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melanie?
Sorry.
I'd like to start out by thanking the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce for organizing this voter forum. I appreciate all of your efforts to make sure that voters have access to accurate information about the candidates running for the local offices in order to make well-informed decisions. My name is Melanie Ergott, and I'm running for the West Bend School Board. I have been a resident and taxpayer in the district for a little over 2 years. I've been married for 14 years, and we have 5 children, ages 12, 8, 6, 3, and almost 1. I have a heart for children and know that they are some of our most vulnerable citizens and valuable resources. Children are our future and should be protected, nurtured, and cared for. The way we teach and train them now will have a tremendous impact on the future of our city, state, country, and world. I believe kids should feel safe and parents should feel comfortable sending their kids to school. Bullying should not be tolerated, and there needs to be real consequences for offenders. It is the job of families to instill values in their children and the job of schools to provide an unbiased education. With math and literacy goals of 40%, we are missing the mark. It is time to get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. West Bend School District can offer a better education without continuing to raise taxes by prioritizing expenses properly. More money is not the answer to a better education. It is time to tighten the belt. It is important to consistently reevaluate the district budget, especially with inflation and declining enrollment. I believe there is a solution to the facility challenges without a referendum by revisiting the work of the private task force. I look forward to sharing my perspective so you can make an educated decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paul?
Thank you, Tony, and good evening. My name is Paul Fisher, and I'm running for re-election to the West Bend School Board because I still believe West Bend schools are a great place to get a great education. My wife and I are committed to West Bend, having lived in the district since 1994, and our children advanced through the district's K-12 programming, beginning kindergarten at Green Tree Elementary. They graduated from East in 2014, 2016, and 2020, all extremely well prepared for life after high school. Out of appreciation for the efforts of their teachers, administrators, and past school boards, I chose to run 3 years ago as a way of saying thank you. By returning Erin and me to the board, our community maintains the current level of board experience with policy, process, finance, and issues facing the district. In addition, my 20 years of management and budgeting experience helped me to see the big picture when weighing decisions regarding staffing or allocation of the all too limited budget dollars. I believe the greatest issue facing our community with respect to education is the need to further the stability and course being set by Superintendent Wimmer. She's been with us 2 years, during which her focus was primarily on helping navigate the district through COVID. But she's also been working on refining key operational processes at the Education Service Center and in the individual schools. As we move forward, continuing to garner feedback from our community is important, especially on the issue of facilities strategies. This will be a challenging topic, requiring attentive listening and respect for differing opinions, as I'm sure there will be many. Nonetheless, as noted in the private task force report from October 2019, doing nothing is not an option. So I look forward to collectively rolling up our sleeves, refreshing the key data from 3 years ago, and digging in to work towards a solution. Working together, we can continue to make West Bend schools a great place to get a great education.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with our first question tonight. Many of you have hit on this question, but we thought we would just draw it out a little bit more. First question is to Erin. What motivates you to serve as a member of the West Bend School?
Yeah, so I did allude to that a little bit in my opening. I was very involved from the get-go with my daughters at Jackson Elementary. I served on the PTO there in some capacity for 7 years, treasurer for a couple, and actually established and co-planned things we called family nights. And as I found out recently, 2 of those annual events are still happening today. I spent time in the classroom with my kids and was really invested heavily in our education system. During the course of my girls' childhood, we had some family health issues that caused me to step back from a lot of that volunteerism, but it really had me step forward into being an advocate for their education. School is where they wanted to be, and I wanted it to be a safe space for them. And it was after that point that I discovered that, if I can advocate for my own children, I can advocate for all students. And I feel like that's what I've been able to do in my past 3 years on the board.
Thank you. Melanie, same question. What motivates you to serve as a member of the West Bend School Board?
Okay, so as a mom of a child with special needs, I know that it's not simple just to pull your kids out of the district if you don't like certain things that are going on. If there's other families in the district also that I know feel that they can't just take their kids out if they're not happy with how the district is going. So for my family, it's something that I felt I needed to do because I want my son to have the best future, and I know that the services are there in the public school to help him, whereas in private schools or homeschooling, he's not going to get the supports that he needs. So that was really my main motivation in deciding to run. And I just have a heart for children, and I want, to see the next generation be successful. They're going to be running the world when we're all older, and so I just want to be involved in the community and being new here. So that's why I decided to run.
All right, thank you. Paul, same question?
Well, as I said in my opening comments, it was out of gratitude and as a way of saying thank you to the community for the experience of my three daughters. Both my parents were educators, so I grew up in a household that put a high value on education. We obviously carried that forward and appreciate the education that our girls receive from West Bend schools. One of the things that I knew beforehand, but I've learned much more so in the last 3 years serving on the board, is that the dynamics have certainly changed from the mid-'70s when I was in elementary school and what the family model looked like, family unit looked like compared to today. And as a board member, we have the responsibility to serve all students and understand that not everybody comes out of the environment that I came out of, that we created for our children, that I'll say agree with, and yet we have a responsibility to serve 6,000 students in this district with varying needs and capabilities. And there's a lot of exciting and fun stuff that we get to participate in, and far and away the most challenging thing that we do as board members is sit in expulsion hearings. And that's where you really get to see the individual. And sometimes it's cut and dried. It's a behavior issue, and it's a recurring behavior issue, and it's, I'll say, a somewhat easy decision to make a change. Other times, it's much grayer, and you see the environment that the individual's coming from, and your heart just breaks. And we need to be able to reach out to those students and recognize that not everybody comes from a traditional two-parent household. And I like to think that I'm bringing my perspective, my empathy, my understanding to the table to help make this a good district for all students.
All right, thank you. And John, what motivates you to serve as a member of the West Bend School Board?
Well, like I had said in my opening statement, I'd like to bring new ideas. All of our students aren't being served as stated. We see a lot of issues go far, way too far, not answered, unanswered, bullying, unanswered, things in the school that shouldn't be happening. I mean, drugs in the school, heating issues, facility issues, those things aren't getting answered, and we aren't seeing anybody that's stepping up to actually make those decisions faster, more accurately and effectively for our students that are actually serving in the schools right now. I also have fought in the school many times over sexually inappropriate movies, content, stuff like that has come home. My son has said, we need permission to watch this movie. Absolutely, you're not going to watch a movie like that. So the school is a very big disconnect from what's actually needed in school and what should be taught and where they need to keep things to themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Melanie, the second question will begin with you. What experiences or skills have prepared you to serve on the school board?
Oops. Oh, I am on still. So I think being a parent and representing, I feel like, a large majority of parents who are in the same position in life as I am with the same concerns, gives me a good qualification for doing that. I have good common sense. I manage my own household, and I just think that common sense is really one of the main things that you need, and I have that, and being a parent. So,
Thank you. Paul?
Again, as noted in my opening comments, obviously having served 3 years on the board, we now have familiarity with the process. As Erin alluded to, it took us about a year to kind of understand the inner workings of the board and the entire process, budgeting and so on and so forth. But beyond the board experience itself, I've been a manager for 20 years. I've had hire fire responsibility. I've had budget responsibility, income and expense management controls, understanding the need and the trade-offs in the decisioning process of what stays, what goes, what's a priority, what's a lower priority, and being able to look at the big picture critically and understand what do we need to do this year, what might be a year 2, year 3 type of initiative. So being able to weigh the options, garner feedback, and lead boldly, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Well, as a father of 3, I run a very disciplined household. I mean, I get a lot of compliments how well behaved my kids are. So I think my wife and I both do a pretty good job at home with that. And I would just like to say my time in service. I mean, my time in the Army, my time overseas in Afghanistan in a war zone, just being able to fight for our freedoms here, and just the discipline it takes to be able to plan, react, and just be a part of a team, a big part of a team, as you go through each step, no matter what it is for, if it's in a combat zone or back in your normal unit. Just being a part of that team and being able to come up with training plans, stuff like that, disciplinary actions for my men, as well as counseling statements for my men each month. So I come from that background, and I believe that'll serve me well in this position.
All right. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you. Erin, what experiences or skills have prepared you to serve on the school board?
So I, too, am a mom of 3. So I think a lot comes with that. There's lots of roles I play in my house. I can't name them all off in 2 minutes, so I'll just skip beyond that. I do have a great deal of patience. I'm very much also a thinker and digester. I spend a lot of time researching and doing my homework, which I think has been evident in some of my work on the curriculum committee over this past year or 2. I'm a good listener, and I think I just want to be a sponge to knowledge. On a personal level, along with being a mom, I manage our household finances. In my job, I have a heart for our community and work with volunteerism and bringing people together. And also, my family's been through some hard times, and I think that has helped open my eyes to not every family looks the same. As Paul alluded to earlier when he talked about expulsion hearings, not every family has a supportive structure. And our job in the public school system is to work for all students and all families. And so I think those are some of the experiences and skills that I bring to the table.
Thank you. Okay, you've all been very thorough with your opening statements and then the follow-up. So I'm going to abbreviate my next question because it does speak to much of what you've already shared with everyone. So I will read the original question was what attributes are essential for effective school board members? But what I would like you to list is maybe 2 or 3 attributes which you feel are essential to be an effective school board member.
Certainly to be a deep thinker, because these are not simple issues that we're dealing with. At the same time, being able to put your own personal opinion to the side while you are gleaning information from the community, the feedback and so forth. It's very easy to, hear somebody make a comment and right away I've got a position in mind, but that's me. As an individual, that can't be me as a board member. I need to take a step back and because we are representatives of the community, garner broader feedback that, what's being said, is there a groundswell feeling that way, or is this just an individual who, was comfortable speaking up and sharing their opinion? But then as we begin to move forward, being able to, again, weigh the trade-offs of what's being said, what change would be required to affect that, what's the cost of such change, and so forth. So being discerning, being attentive and listening, I'd say holding your tongue to be able to continue to incite feedback, as opposed to resistance and reluctance to share comments, and then being clear in your position going forwards as to why you're taking the stance that you are.
Thank you. John?
I think some key attributes for this position would be, obviously, I think first and foremost, you have to have a heart to serve. You want to serve your community. And to go along with the Army's or the military's motto or key attributes are honesty and integrity. Everything like that, I think you have to hold a position like this to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable as well as your the other board members. And assertiveness. I think assertiveness for sure needs to be a main attribute for someone in this position to be able to make the decision and stand behind it.
Thank you. Erin?
So I think I answered most of these in the last question. Sorry.
It's all right.
Listener, learner, and advocate. I think when those three work together, you're hitting all the buttons. You're working for the community. You're working for your teachers, your students, your taxpayers. I think you're encompassing everything in those three. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melanie?
I would say a good listener would be one of the key things. A lot of the times people come before the board and have things to say or concerns, and I think it's really important for the board to actually hear what they're saying and listen to what they're saying so that they feel heard. And I think honesty is really important, as well as empathy, because you do, like Money had said, that I know that there are many kids from different backgrounds in the community here and in the district, and so I think it's really important to just be aware of the different backgrounds that people come from, and so we can better serve them.
Thank you. All right, our fourth question, we'll start with John. What do you consider to be the most pressing priority for our district in the coming 12 months, and why?
I think there's a couple. I mean, first and foremost, I think there's, we have a major budgeting issue. We've had over a 20% tax increase in the last 3 years, and a enrollment that's just completely falling every year. So one's going up, one's going down, and not in the right order. So I believe, budgeting issues and facilities maintenance is one of them, and we need to just make sure that the needs of the community is met and the parents are being listened to.
Thank you. Erin, what do you consider to be the most pressing priority for our district in the coming 12 months, and why?
Okay, so I also think there's a couple. I think right-sizing our district with our declining enrollment and the issues with facilities, what does that look like? That's going to have to be something that we open up conversations with the community to figure out how to best do that. I think fiscal responsibility, which in my past 3 years on the board, I feel like we've done really well. We've had $1 million shortfalls before and have balanced the budget, and we would look to do that again this year. We're looking at a $2 million shortfall, and we are pushing for a balanced budget. That will happen. And I think finally having a safe and advancing our learning environment. So safe for all students to be able to learn, and working on our academic achievement.
Thank you. Melanie, same question.
To me, I believe the most pressing priority is probably the budget. As others had mentioned, with a projected $2 million deficit for the next year, there definitely needs to be some changes, especially since there is $4 million of grant money included in that, so it would technically even be more than that if that wasn't there. And also the facility maintenance and right-sizing the district, as was previously mentioned. I think those are two pretty hot topics. So.
Thank you. And Paul?
I would agree with the other candidates in the sense that budgeting every year is a challenge because of the handcuffs that the state has put on us regarding per member revenue limits and so forth. But to put the comments about falling enrollment in perspective, West Bend is not alone. The state of Wisconsin has seen a decline in K-12 enrollment because people just aren't having as many children. We actually picked up 75, 76 students this year. We're projecting about a 76 student loss next year, so it's obviously a wash. But as a percentage, that's a little over 1% of our student population. So it's not like it's the sky is falling by any stretch. But that said, we do need to address our facilities issues. As again, the task force reported 3 years ago, doing nothing is not an option. These buildings are costing us money to maintain. If we choose to invest in them, we have more space than we need. So we need to pick up the mantle of facilities review and work towards a resolution. And this can't be a quick fix. It needs to be something that is well thought out and sufficient feedback heard from the community. But I think that is probably the biggest thing because that definitely is a key driver in the overall budgeting process.
Right, thank you. All right, our fifth question. Erin, how can a school board best communicate with its constituents?
So we've actually quite improved this in the past couple of years, especially since Superintendent Wimmer has joined us. There's multiple avenues. There's always social media. There's newsletters that go out to families and parents. Recently, there's now information being sent to community members if you sign up your email via our website. Our website's always a place you can go and get that information. I think the superintendent has a column in the Daily News. She also does a monthly radio show with the local radio station. There's our district, via Nancy Kunkler, puts out press releases pretty frequently. And I know that our district gets tapped a lot from other surrounding districts because we are the county seat. So we often get tapped for ideas and questions related to how we're dealing with things. We're also a really large district, so that helps too. So I think we've done a really good job with our communication, especially over these last couple of years.
Thank you. Melanie?
I think the best way to communicate with the constituents is whatever works best for the community. I think everybody is going to look to different resources to hear from the district. I know for me, email would be the best way to contact me or to get info out to me, but I know there's other people that do like the newspaper or other sources, so I think it's good to have a variety of avenues to communicate with the community.
Thank you. And Paul?
Unfortunately, because of the state of the media situation locally and regionally, this has become much more of a DIY, do-it-yourself type of model, as Erin has listed. Doing it on the district Facebook page and the superintendent writing columns for the paper. Back when we had an 8-page front section of the newspaper, the Daily News was able to provide much more coverage as opposed to the report from last night's board meeting and the obligatory COVID update and so forth. We just don't get that hard-hitting news anymore, digging into issues and putting it out there, so we have to get it out there ourselves. And as Melanie said, email for some works great, and you can go to the district website and you can register to be included in the weekly communications that come out from administration. Is that exhaustive of all the things going on? Probably not, because you're talking to an entire community and they want to know various things, and there's only so much space that you can even get into the email in terms of putting content together. So signing up for that email, going to the district Facebook page, and then providing other feedback to us in terms of what other modalities make sense. What do you choose to listen to? I had somebody reach out to me yesterday asking for information, and I pointed them to my Facebook campaign page, and they said, well, some people don't Facebook. They don't even do email. Well, okay, then, some of those people are still out there. How do we reach them? What's the best avenue to get to you? Let us know, and we will work to make that happen.
All right, thank you. And John?
I think, obviously the question was, how can that school board better communicate, correct?
Best communicate with its constituents.
So I heard a lot coming from how the superintendent's going to communicate. I think the school board actually needs to communicate with the constituents and actually pick up the computer, pick up a phone, email back. I have so many unanswered emails to the school board right now. So, you can start with just the simple things.
Thank you. All right, this next question is a two-part question, and Melanie, will begin with you. What is your vision for the West Bend School District, and how does that vision support the economy and quality of life in the district? I'll repeat that just because there were two questions. What is your vision for the West Bend School District, and how does that vision support the economy and quality of life in the district? Microphone.
My vision for the district would be just to have high quality education for the children that are going through the district, improving the testing scores for reading and mathematics, just so they can be better people in the community, when they grow up, that when they're living here as adults, they can work jobs and be, effective members of the community.
All right, thank you. Paul?
Similar to Melanie, I would like for our students to be coming out of graduation ready for what comes next, whether that's in the workforce, that's in the military, that's in a 2 or a 4-year college program. But they are prepared, and it would be great if they would feel so called to come back to this community. They had such a great experience here. They want to move back to West Bend from where they've gone to school and been in the interim, and come back to West Bend and raise their family here because it was such a great experience. Now, obviously, that extends well beyond West Bend School District. That's the entire venue of West Bend and Jackson and so forth. But I think that's the ultimate goal that we want, is for our kids to feel that this was such a great experience that they want to bring their family back here and raise them in the same community.
Thank you. John?
My vision would be, just like already kind of stated, higher education standards and, better education for the kids, is, I think, everyone's main goal. I don't think anybody would disagree. Wanting to send their kids off into the world after school with the best education possible. And I think right now the standards have been a bit pushed back after COVID, and everybody uses the excuses, testings were so bad after COVID. Well, I don't think that should be an excuse to just blame COVID for everything. It's getting old, honestly. We have to be able to make a tough decision and get back to where our standards were and where we want our kids to have the standard before they leave school, and also a safer district. We need to have better safety in place. Better resolutions for the issues that we see in our district, and I think that would go a long way with the kids. I hear things from my daughter, my son, and stuff like that. So, I think all in all, the quality of life in the district, obviously, helping with the tax stuff and everything would obviously put more money in the pockets and help keep people in our district to serve and be a member.
Thank you. And Erin?
I think there's lots of things that could go into this vision. Academic achievement, preparing our students well for beyond high school, retaining high-quality staff, facilities issues being addressed. and continuing to show fiscal responsibility. I think if you have all of those things together, we look to be a destination district. And when you have a destination school district, that is attractive to people to move here, which is going to help our home prices and our taxes and our businesses and employers who those people are hiring. That would be my vision.
Thank you. So you all touched upon the budget as being a big priority going into the next 12 months. Beyond the budget, we'll begin with you, Paul. What do you view as a pain point for the school district? And if elected, what do you specifically plan to do to address it?
Well, I think the biggest pain point that we face, again, is facilities. It was stated by the private task force 3 years ago that for a district of our size, 1.2 million square feet under roof, our annual maintenance budget is woefully insufficient. We're this year at about 1.75 million. 3 years ago, they were projecting 3 to maybe even 4 million a year would have been more appropriate for a district of our size. So I think what's happened over the last 10 to 15 years, past boards as a measure to mute some of the potential tax increase. I think they've had to rob Peter to pay Paul by reducing the maintenance spend in order to not affect programming in the classroom. But that's come back around now to bite us because we have deferred maintenance that is needing to be done on facilities like Fair Park, Decorah, and Jackson. So my focus is to get the community conversation started on the facilities right sizing, and then figure out where we go from here so that we don't have to look at putting the projected $4 to $5 million of maintenance into the Jackson building, as Dave Ross shared about 2 months ago at a board meeting, because things have been put off because we don't know what's going to happen with that building, but he can't keep kicking the can down the road too much further. We're going to have to do something. So we need to make a decision as to what we're going to do regarding that building, regarding Jackson with an elementary school, et cetera. And again, that's going to be a listening process that will have significant financial impact, but how do we do what the district needs to be, as Erin shared, a destination district when it comes to facilities?
Thank you. John.
I think the biggest pain points are, as Paul stated, the facility issues. That, and it goes along with the budget as well. So obviously, Jackson does need a new school. I mean, those people have supported West Bend for years and years and years with what we've been doing up here. And all I hear from Jackson is how they just feel like they've just been left out to dry. So conversations definitely need to be addressed as far as what we're going to do with Jackson School. And I think it needs to happen sooner than later. Just like I said, they've been supporting us for a long time, and they've gotten nothing out of the deal with all the referendums we passed for up here. We waste a lot of money up here with buildings and facilities that we don't need a specific administration building or something like that. They should be consolidated into other buildings, and with lower enrollments, we should definitely be looking at consolidating schools. So I think we can fix all of that without having to have too much of an issue with the tax burden on the community.
Thank you. Erin.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. So beyond the budget, what do you view as a pain point for the school district? And if elected, what do you specifically plan to do to address it?
I'm going to piggyback on the facilities thing. I think that is an outstanding issue. It has been for years, and particularly at Jackson. And Jackson has my heart. That's where my kids went to school. I would be curious to know how many kids open and roll out of Jackson just because they look at the building. We're losing that opportunity. And what Paul brought up about the deferred maintenance, that happened years ago, probably before I was even paying attention to what was happening in the district. And I'm really thankful that they chose to spend that money in the classrooms. Our students have benefited from that, but that's caught up to us now. And The facilities budget is not large, and it's definitely not glamorous. If you look at what we're spending this coming year, it's almost all roofs. And when we looked at for what next year could be, we could spend almost $5 million on roofing. It's not glamorous things that we're doing. We need to address the facilities for keeping our kids safe as well. I know there's lots of issues that have happened at some schools that make it not such a comfortable learning environment. So I think that is next on our agenda probably, and I'm excited to start engaging the community in conversations around that.
Thank you. And Melanie?
Obviously, this is a big topic since everybody has spoken about it, but the facilities was the big thing that I was hearing from constituents when I was out in Jackson, too, especially. I know a lot of them had said that they really feel like they're left out. They're forgotten over there. Their school hasn't been maintained for years, and they are just feel like forgotten. They said they feel like the forgotten children, that, and they had also mentioned they also pay a large portion of the taxes to the district, too, and they're not really seeing the return on that by just being left out. So yeah, the district definitely needs to look into right sizing and coming up with a new solution for their school, and just not maintaining the buildings for a long period of time and pushing it off has kind of just backed everybody into a corner now that got to figure out what to do about that. So
All right, thank you. We're to our final question. Thank you all. Okay, this 8th question will begin with John. How do you define success for our students?
I think success for a student can be defined in many ways. Not every student's going to be the smartest or the strongest athlete, or even the most popular kid. But I think a successful student can be defined as a student that basically can make it through their school and have a good time, enjoy their time in school, because you don't get that time back. You don't get those sports teams back. You don't get those classes with the disruptive kid or the funny kid or the smart kid or the girl you like. You don't get that time back. So a successful student would be one that can make it through their time and just be able to reflect back on the teachers that they enjoyed being, and remember the teachers that they became close with.
Thank you. Erin, how do you define success for our students?
A student should feel safe, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, the whole student. A student should be able to graduate from high school and know what they want to do beyond that, whether it's a 4-year college, a tech program, the military, going into the workforce, whatever that looks like. They should be able to take classes that will get them to that point, but then maybe sprinkle some fun ones in there as well. And they should be able to figure out where they fit, whether that's, I'm really proud that the West Bend School District has a myriad of options for students, whether they're an athlete or they play an instrument or they sing in the choir or they act in the play. I just want them to be able to find their place, and that helps them really figure out who they are and helps them grow and be a contributing member of society.
Melanie.
I think that whatever is the best that a student can be, everyone has different gifts and abilities, and as long as they are achieving their best, I would call it a success, whether that would be entering the workforce after school or college or a tech school or apprenticeship type thing. As long as the kids are achieving their best, I think that I would call that a success.
All right, thank you. And Paul, how do you define success for our students?
I would say that empowering each student to become who they feel called to be is success. I look at my own 3 girls, and our oldest in 7th grade, she knew she wanted to become a physical therapist. And she took various science classes at the high school and was energized in that setting. And when she got to college, she because of the preparation here. She was ahead of where some of her classmates were in the college setting, and she came back, and Mr. Wani specifically is one that stands out in my mind, that she thanked him one night at a I forget if it was a basketball game or whatever, but it was things she learned here that translated into the college setting and propelled her forward, and today she's a physical therapist in the Columbus and Monona Grove School District. Our middle daughter, perhaps a little bit of a middle child syndrome, kind of stuck in the middle and so forth. But in 7th grade, she started catching on to Cupcake Wars on TV and making cupcakes at home and getting into baking. And Sally Hoyer caught her attention and propelled her forward in the culinary arts program. And today she is gainfully employed for the last 3 years full-time in the pastry industry in the Fox Valley. Our youngest is a sophomore at St. Cloud State, working towards her degree in speech pathology, in part because of some shadowing opportunities she's had here in the district. So we have given my 3 children opportunities to go where they feel called and who they feel they are in life. And I think the more we can do that for our students, the more successful we are.
Thank you. All right, we've come to closing remarks. We're going to follow the rotation of questions. So, Erin, you'll begin with your closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you again for having us here tonight. I'm really excited where we are in this school district, even coming off of a couple years of COVID where our focus had to change from where we wanted it to be. I think we've all kind of talked about some great priorities this evening, and I think those are places that we should start with, making our buildings safe for our students, having academic achievement really be a focus, attending to the whole child, because a child without social, emotional, and mental well-being will not be able to thrive academically. And then also looking at the challenges ahead with the budget, with facilities issues, long-term planning, and our fiscal responsibility that we have for our taxpayers. I'm really proud to have been a student in West Bend, and I'm really proud that my kids were and are still here. I think we're doing a great job preparing our kids. We have a lot to be proud of. We have fabulous CTE programs for our students. We have a multitude of AP classes. We have youth apprenticeship. We have opportunities for kids to take college classes in high school. It's just really preparing our students well for beyond high school. I am not politically motivated. I do have a personal agenda, and that is to be here for all students. Our students are our future teachers. They're our future parents, our future community members, employers, and taxpayers. I am happy that I've been able to serve on the school board, and I'm proud to prepare them for life beyond.
Thank you. Melanie, your closing remarks.
All right, as the mom of a child with special needs, I know that it is not always as simple as just pulling your kids out of a school if you don't like it. Private schools don't always have the funding for special education, and homeschooling may not be the best fit either. Parents shouldn't have to compromise their family values or finances to provide their children with a quality education. I would like to see the curriculum cleaned up of biased material with true transparency and a focus on the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Children need a solid foundation in these fundamental skills for lifelong success, and it is important to fill in these gaps. I would like to see safety and bully issues addressed and consequences for bad behavior. No child should have to be afraid of going to school. Returning to toxic environments day after day is harmful. We know that hurting people hurt people, and we need to point kids and families to community resources that get to the root of problem behaviors. I would like to see the budget operating within its means, even if that means some tough decisions. It is time for a solution to the facilities issues, particularly Jackson Elementary, and revisiting the task force plan that proved we can solve these issues for a much lower cost. Albert Einstein once said, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results." If you want to see change in the district, you'll have to vote for change. Otherwise, you will continue to see more of the same results. I will serve with honesty, integrity, and will always put the needs of children, families, and taxpayers in the district first. I will boldly stand up for what is right, even if I stand alone. I am not afraid to go against the grain. Vote Melanie Ergott and John Donaldson on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you again for this opportunity this evening. This school board has been fielding comments and ridicule from a small but vocal segment of our community since last summer. This group is fueled by a national initiative aimed at sowing dissent and unrest at the local level. Their work began by making claims that our social-emotional learning materials were teaching our students critical race theory. CRT is a graduate school philosophy requiring a deep understanding of U.S. history as well as historic U.S. domestic policy. It has no place in the K-12 setting and as such is not taught in West Bend schools. To this day, nobody from this group has been able to present even one what I would consider to be clear, legitimate example of such teachings from Second Step. When it became obvious that this claim was unfounded, their claim shifted to the material being anti-family, which was just as hollow. As a board member, I welcome feedback and questions from our community. But when the motivation for that feedback is the intent to sow dissent and unrest, I have to say enough is enough. Our community deserves better. Present your issues of substance before the board in a respectful manner, and let's work together to see what change we can effect. Vote Fisher and Dove on April 5th to maintain rational and sound thinking on your school board. Thank you.
Thank you. And John.
I guess I look forward to asking the tough questions and challenging the ways that we assess each issue. As the current board right now does not ever disagree with one another, or no one asks the questions that will change a situation or the answer to a topic. I enjoy serving and looking forward to serving this community with as much dedication as I once did for this country. I will not back down. I will not waver from my stance, and I will not be swayed one way or the other. I will be the strong, dedicated member of the board that everyone needs in this community to make actually hard decisions and not just bobblehead your way into another answer.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. This concludes the first portion of our forum. I'd like to thank the candidates and wish them well in the coming election. Thank you. We'll take a brief intermission while the candidates for the Common Council take their seats. Thank you, everyone. We will now begin our forum for the Common Council candidates. The candidates for District 1, 3, and 7 are running unopposed and will not be joining us tonight. But we do have two candidates vying to represent District 5, and now welcome these two gentlemen, Jed Dolnick and Jim Knepler. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. We're going to start in alphabetical order for this session, then alternate who will respond first to each question. First, opening remarks will be made by Jed.
Thank you, and thanks to the Chamber for hosting this. I was elected to the City Council representing District 5 2 years ago, so I'm completing my first term. I was on the City Council back in 1981 when I was a much younger person, and I served 2 terms. I was again on the City Council for 4 years, 1998 to 2002. And again, I was returned to the council for my 3rd time, which might be a record for the city, 2 years ago. I've lived in the city of West Bend for 45 years. I came here in 1977 when I was hired by Washington County. I was there for 24 years and then was the police chief in Jackson for 17 years until I retired. I have always enjoyed being on the city council. I feel that the most enjoyable thing about it is being able to help my neighbors. Often when they have a problem or a question about city services, it's their alderperson who they contact. And I immediately respond to those emails and to those phone calls. because they are important to me. I'm looking forward to being given the opportunity to run, or rather to serve another 2 years on the City Council. I would also add I've been a member of the Plan Commission for 29 years, which has given me quite a bit of experience in cities' growth and progress. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jim?
Well, I would like to thank the Chamber for sponsoring this event and giving us a chance to answer questions, bring up our thoughts and ideas and opinions for the voters so that they can make a wise and balanced decision about which is the best candidate for the 5th District. People have asked me, why are you even running for alderman? I run into so many people that don't even know what an alderman does. And I thought about this, and my purpose for running right now is I'm at the age in my life where I have quite a few years of experience under my belt, and my entire career has been in the business, private sector area. I'm a CPA and accountant, and right now I'm a controller at a business in Milwaukee. And I know how to manage a business. I know how to work with employees. I know how to motivate employees. And I also have the fiscal and business experience to help the city run, I believe, more effectively and bring new ideas, new viewpoints, new ways of doing things. You know, in all of us, we get comfortable in what we do, and just doing the same old is the easiest route. And at times, there are situations where we need somebody to come in who has a whole different view and who didn't grow up in this city. I'm a transplant here myself. I've lived here for 13 years now. I love West Bend. I plan to stay here. And I just want to serve right now and bring my skills and experience to help the city work.
Thank you. All right, our first question is going to go to Jim. You both have touched upon this bit, but if elected, what qualities do you bring to the Common Council that would benefit the community? What qualities?
Well, my qualities, I think more of a personal nature. I'm a careful decision maker. I don't believe in making rash decisions. I like to study the issues, look at the people that are involved. I look at how the organization is working in general. I look for problem areas that can possibly be done differently or better, and explore, obviously, because I'm a finance guy, what is this costing? And is there a more cost-effective way of getting things done even better at a lower cost? And in a lot of cases, that is possible. So I would look at how West Bend City is being run right now. I'd work with the people that make the decisions day to day and offer any ideas or things I see that I would question, like, why are we doing it this way? And hopefully bring a new perspective and ask questions that at times could be uncomfortable, to be honest. But that's what a challenger does. So I'm the challenger.
Thank you. And Jed?
I have spent my career in public service, and as I mentioned earlier, 17 years of that was as working for the Village of Jackson. There are great differences between public sector and private sector budgets. I prepared budgets for the Jackson Police Department 17 years in a row. Our average budget there was $1.3 million. Math was my worst subject in school, but for some reason I really took to doing the budget, which is for most people the least pleasurable duty they have when they're in government. But I prepared the budget, as I said, every year and didn't have any help and did the spreadsheets, et cetera. Also, my public safety experience, although it was law enforcement, I dealt a lot with the fire side because I would deal with the fire department in matters of mutual interest, shall we say. And public safety combined is one of the biggest items for the city budget. So I can speak intelligently to the issues on the police, fire, EMS side based on that experience. My years of experience on the Plan Commission also mean that I understand when issues are before the council. When it comes to matters of long-range planning, even planning for streets, because I know all the different classifications of streets that we have. So I think that I have the breadth of experience to make me an effective member of the Common Council. It doesn't mean that I'm entrenched. It doesn't mean I'm not open to new ideas. It's just simply, I think, the positive aspects of having that experience.
Thank you. All right. Jed, you'll have our second question, and this is, we're just wondering, what are your district residents saying about West Bend?
When I talk to the district residents, it's always about the streets, the condition of our streets. And I think that's true throughout the city. And the Common Council knows that's a problem. It got to be a problem because of some valid decisions that were made about reducing our indebtedness and the amount of money we were budgeting to cover capital projects. But we've now fallen behind. We need to borrow for these projects. You cannot put on the property taxes millions of dollars to reconstruct streets. And so they have to be borrowed for, but it has to be done judiciously. We do have a long-range plan for that we're looking at for the Common Council. Beyond the streets, people enjoy, in fact, they love living in West Bend. They're happy with the mix of entertainment and commercial venues that we have here and the quality of life. It's a good place to live, and that's the other thing that I hear. So the two balance out a little bit.
All right. Jim, what are you hearing from your district residents?
Well, as I've been meeting prospective constituents in our district, I've walked around and knocked on doors and talked to a lot of people. And the number one issue I hear is the condition of the streets. By far, that's the number one point that people raise. And that's the area that I would put some of my strongest focus on if I'm elected, is looking at how are we doing streets here in West Bend, and are we doing it just the way we've always done it? I've had people come up to me on their own and give me all kinds of suggestions of why don't we do this with the surfacing? Why don't we try this? Why don't we do that? And from the 13 years I've been here, I haven't seen a whole lot of these suggestions happening. I think there are other ways of dealing with streets that aren't being looked at. But to be honest, most of the people I've talked to are very happy to live here and don't have complaints. So that's actually the good news. They live here just like we do, and we all are enjoying the quality of life here, except for the streets. And I say, rock on. Let's make West Bend better.
Excellent. Third question will be begin with you, Jim. Sort of ties in with what we were discussing, but how do you plan, if elected, how do you plan to involve your constituents in the decision-making process in our city?
Well, it kind of depends on the issue. The streets, it's going to just be talking to people. I would probably, I will have an email if I'm elected. I would have a city email where people can address questions to you, and probably some kind of a phone system. I'm not quite sure how they do that. But I would also go out and talk to people, and not wait for them to come to you with a problem, but to go out and find out what are some of your needs. And I actually have found some very specific needs in different parts of our district, different areas, and a lot of it involves prospective planning for new construction. There's some questions in residents' minds about what's going on here. And there are some problem areas where things are happening where people are kind of upset about it. And I would actually probably talk to people in a whole area that are having the same kind of problem and see if we can work out some kind of resolution. I guess that's the end of my answer there.
All right, thank you. And Jed, if reelected, how do you plan to involve your constituents in the decision-making process in our city?
I've already been trying to do that. One big ongoing question in the district is what will happen to the former Yar Ready Mix plant on Sand Drive. And it has been a couple of years. There have been concept proposals before the Plan Commission. It is still unsettled what will be done there, how it will be laid out. But through every step of that process, I've made sure that the residents in the surrounding neighborhood knew what was going on. We did mailings from the planning office. I asked them, please, normally mailings aren't done beyond maybe 200 feet when there's a rezoning. That's what the statute says. And I asked the city, let's send that out to the entire neighborhood, which they did. We're past the rezoning. Now we're waiting to see what will happen with the development itself. Midway through my term, I sent out a mailing to everybody, paid for it out of my own pocket, went out to everybody who was a voter. The city also has gotten more savvy with its Facebook page, thanks to the efforts of Jessica Wilds, who is on city staff and in charge of the Facebook page. That is a great way to communicate with people. As was mentioned during the school board forum, we don't have the newspaper coverage that we used to have years ago, but we try to reach out that way as well.
Thank you. All right, our fourth question, we will begin with you, Jed. Finding employees has been a major issue for business. What can the Common Council do to help keep or attract skilled workers and young professionals in the West Bend area?
Well, one thing that we are currently looking at is affordable housing. There are initiatives out there to encourage the development of affordable single-family homes. A lot of our younger people who are starting out in employment cannot afford to buy a home. They don't have the down payment even for a house. And so they are more likely to live in apartments or to leave our area. If we can keep them here, and we can't influence what business pays, but we can make the area more affordable to live in. And so as a member of the Plan Commission, I'm really interested in this subject. Our zoning does allow down to a 1,000 square foot house. Nobody wants to build a 1,000 square foot house. But there are some programs that we are looking at in cooperation with Washington County that might make smaller homes affordable if we can facilitate the land division, the land layout for that. I think that is one thing that will help quite a bit in the area you're talking about.
All right, thank you. And Jim, I'll repeat the question. Finding employees has been a major issue for business. What can the Common Council do to help keep or attract skilled workers and young professionals in West Bend?
Well, it's not only West Bend that has this problem. It's literally almost every business in America right now. Even where I'm at, we're having a difficult time hiring new employees as well. And I'm the HR person also at the company where I work. So what we're doing is we're actually expanding how we've looked for employees. We're using different recruiting methods, reaching farther out than we ever did before, using recruiting services to find people. We are trying to match, we have to be competitive with what other businesses are paying, so we have had to up our financial offerings a little bit at times. But another thing that I wanted to mention in this question, I kind of expected this would come up, is West Bend using the existing employees we have to the best applications? Are people doing the right things for their skill level? And as technology is improving, do we need 3 or 4 clerks crunching numbers, or can one person do it with better software and things like that? I get feedback from people as well that are questioning, why do we have so many people in such and such an area? And these would be questions, some of the hard questions that I would ask. Do we really need, I guess we have approximately 300 employees. Maybe we have too many people doing too little things. So just allocating how people are working and what areas they work in, we may be able to financially have additional funds to work with when we have to go out and hire through recruiting from other areas.
Thank you. All right, 5th question. As we all know, downtown West Bend, which is home to approximately 200 small businesses, is experiencing some very exciting development. The district apartment project is underway. Recently, it was announced a $2.65 million grant was awarded for the West Side Riverwalk project and the 2023 proposed downtown Main Street road construction. Once these projects are completed, the downtown businesses will surely benefit, as will the community. How do you propose the Common Council best ensure that the small businesses downtown experience as little disruption as possible during these adjacent construction projects? Jim.
I've kind of worried about this myself. I've been thinking about this, and I support the downtown revitalization programs that we're doing right now. I'm actually in favor of all of them. I think the Riverwalk is a good project. I think it's going to bring people to West Bend and bring business here like we haven't seen in a long time. I've seen other towns in Wisconsin that I'm familiar with where we lived in the past, and they've done their downtown projects, and it's been great. It's been awesome, and I think it will be here as well. I do have a concern about the Main Street project because I've also seen in other cities where they do these major street projects and it takes too long. We don't have 6 months to dink around with road construction. This has to be negotiated up front that this is going to take X amount of weeks and you'll be penalized if you don't meet the deadlines. And it's going to be a challenge because these businesses can't afford to be shut for months and months and months. It'll put them out of business, and that has happened in other cities.
Okay, thank you. And to completely agree, these are amazing projects that are going on, and our downtown is thriving and will continue to thrive. But how do you propose the City Council, or Common Council, I apologize, best ensure that the small businesses downtown experience as little disruption as possible during these adjacent construction projects? Jed?
I was on the Common Council, the first time when I was on the Common Council is when the original downtown project was done. It was when Highway 45 used to go straight through downtown, and it was bypassed, and we slowed traffic down. We put in the brick pavers, which seemed like a good idea at the time. There are ways of doing it to prevent undue disruption. I don't know that it's the council's job to ensure that, other than to make sure that our engineering department, our Department of Community Development are aware of this, and believe me, they are. They both know how important it is not to unduly disrupt the businesses. It can be done. We did it once before. It can be done again. And will there be some inconvenience? There always is. But it will lead to a very nice payoff at the end. But it can be done.
All right, thank you. All right, we're to our sixth and final question. I would like to preface this question because it has to do with West Bend's greatest need. I think we've definitely covered the roads. So maybe if we could look at its second greatest need. Jed, what do you see as West Bend's greatest need? If elected, what immediate steps would you take to address that need?
Next to roads, it is the future of the fire department, and we are enmeshed right now in major study. A major study was done. We have a task force that's looking at the study and formulating ideas on how to proceed. The fire department is greatly understaffed. The big concern that I have is there have been some suggestions made within the consultant study that promise economic payoffs, but they are really bad ideas, such as potentially closing down the fire station that serves a large part of the 5th District, such as spinning off our dispatching for police and fire to the county. This wasn't mentioned in the study, but there are some communities that have spun off their EMS, their ambulance service. We have to be careful that we don't make things worse, but the fire department has not increased its staffing in 20 years, which is incredible considering the growth of the city. And that is what we are wrestling with at this time. And we're wrestling with how we're going to solve that within a sensible budget.
Thank you. Jim, same question?
Well, I was able to get a copy of that study and read through it myself. And I also met with the firefighters union, their leadership council or group, whatever they call it. I met with them a few weeks ago and heard them out, and they asked me questions. And I am in agreement that I believe the fire department is a little bit understaffed. I'm questioning the need of 14 more firefighters. That seems huge. But I do believe we need more. I'm coming with an open mind about the facilities. The one that they are talking about, it's very close to the main fire station right downtown. It's almost too close. And as West Bend is growing farther out, all our facilities are clustered in the older part of town, and there may be a better way to relocate them. And I also question the EMS service, to be honest. I think it's a medical taxi service that's extremely expensive. I think if people realized how much West Bend spends on shuttling people down to Milwaukee County in ambulances, sometimes they'll have 2 or even 3 EMTs driving down, and it's like, why? It's very expensive, and that's something I believe that we should look at possibly privatizing or letting the medical community arrange their own transit needs. That's not a burden that the taxpayers absolutely have to bear, and other cities have ended that. So I do see needs in the fire department, but I wouldn't be ready to write a blank check for everything that they're asking for.
All right, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It's time for closing remarks, and Jim, you have the floor first.
Well, I want to promise the taxpayers if they vote for me and if I'm elected, that I will be eyes and ears for them on their behalf. I believe that our community is our customers. The city government is like the business, and we serve the community, and that includes the taxpayers and also includes the people that don't pay taxes, the old people and the kids. They're part of the community, and we're here to serve all of them. And our service to the taxpayers is to make sure you're getting your money's worth. Most people are willing to pay taxes if they see that the money is well spent and accounted for, and that the city government is a steward over the funds that they're given. And people are okay with that as long as they know that they're being heard and that they're being respected, their wallets are being respected, let's put it that way. So I pledge to support that. I will ask the hard questions. I'm coming in here without an agenda. I'm the challenger, so vote for the challenger.
Thank you. And Jed?
I'm a taxpayer, so I certainly don't want to throw my money away. And so I am careful as a member of the city council to make sure that our taxpayers' money, including my own money, is used wisely. It has been a privilege to serve the city of West Bend on the city council. As I said earlier, one of the most important things that an alderman does is simply answer questions and seek answers for people when they need help. Much of what we do is not very exciting. We're not like the school board, which has to deal with a lot of policy issues, very contentious policy issues. Ours are more nuts and bolts. Getting the garbage picked up, getting the streets plowed, having the parks maintained, and when the streets aren't plowed or the garbage isn't collected, the alderman is the one who's going to hear about it. And as Jim said, actually I was the one who said that at the last forum. I'm honored you remembered that. But we agree on that we believe that most people are willing to pay taxes if they know that they're being used wisely. I sincerely believe that we are using the taxpayers' money wisely, and I would appreciate everyone's, well, at least the 5th District's vote for another 2 years on the City Council. Thanks.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. This concludes our forum. A special thank you to the City of West Bend, and in particular, Jay Shambeau and John Elke for their assistance in making this event possible. Thank you to Chamber Finance Manager Debbie Santopolo for acting as the forum's timekeeper. I'd like to thank our candidates for participating in this forum, applaud them for their desire to serve our community, and wish them well in the upcoming election. And finally, a reminder that the election is Tuesday, April 5th. Please go out and vote. Thank you.